with great pleasure that I welcome you to today's TiEmpowerHer series event. Now, as part of our ongoing commitment to fostering the growth and success of women entrepreneurs worldwide, TiEwomen provides a platform dedicated to embracing, engaging, and empowering women through learning, mentoring, very important, access to funding, even more important, scalability, safe spaces, and of course, community. Now, our TiEmpowerHer series is a testament to this commitment, aiming to bring our community together, encouraging members to share, learn, and we all will grow collectively. Now, it's a forum where ideas flourish, connections deepen, and opportunities abound. Now, today's gathering is a special occasion as we have the privilege of hosting a fireside chat featuring two exceptional women entrepreneurs. Leading our discussion is Fiza Malhotra, CEO of Beyond Seed's growth engine, Beyond Marketing. Fiza brings to the table over 2 decades of experience in helping startups scale up, providing access to resources, expert solutions, and capital. Her leadership promise in developing and executing PR and marketing strategies is absolutely unmatched, and we're absolutely honored, Fiza, to have her guide our conversation today. Now, joining Fiza is my good friend Anna, who's also nicknamed the Turnaround Girl, because she does turn around bad businesses into good ones. She's a visionary CEO of Perx Technologies. Anna leads with innovation in customer engagement, leveraging her tech background and leadership experience to drive Perx's mission forward. Through AI-driven solutions, Perx is reshaping marketing and loyalty landscapes. Quite a lot of connection here. Earning recognition for its strategic direction and commitment to diversity in STEM. So today's fireside chat promises to be both engaging and insightful with these two remarkable leaders as they share their insights, experiences, and vision for the future. So without holding you guys back, let's just deep dive into a very inspiring conversation. And again, welcome Fiza and Anna, and thank you everybody here for joining us for this wonderful journey of empowerment and growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Testing.
Okay, great.
Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much, Bank of Singapore. Honestly, this is such a great venue. You know it's a great venue when people who work in the startup business walk in and they're like, ooh, snacks, ooh, cameras. Like, thank you so much for supporting us. And also Thai women. I mean, honestly, I've seen how much Thai has grown, Sudha, and now this conscious effort to elevate the conversations with women. I do want to say, by the way, whenever you see there's a Thai women event, that means men, please come. Because it's not like we talk about soft stuff only. We also have a chat. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Anna. Anna's got an amazing story, which we're going to get into. I would ask you guys, we're only here for about 40 minutes or so. If you can keep your phones off, just be with us in the space and, be present with us. Grab some food if you want, be comfortable, and just join us in a very open and honest conversation. Anna, welcome. Anna is the founder of Perx Technologies, one of the biggest reward platforms. I thought we'd start it off, Anna, if you could just introduce yourself and how you've got here for people who don't know about you.
Great, thank you so much. Only in Bank of Singapore do you have condoms over the mic. Very, very safe driven mentality. Very safe. We protect everything. So just a remark about the company. I hate rewards, and we're not a rewards platform, so sorry about that.
You'll let me down again.
It's okay. We're trying to disrupt and replace rewards platforms. But anyway, so just a quick intro about me. I'm from San Francisco. I grew up in Florida, born in China, spent 16 years in California, and my background is definitely not in computer science, but my first job was in computer science. So you don't have to major in STEM to get into STEM and deep tech. You're forced to. Actually, most of the programmers in the early days, they were English majors, psychology majors, econ majors, and I'm an econ major. And so the whole, path to technology, it doesn't have to be the straight line. It could be definitely something that you didn't learn, or you learn and you want to pivot your trade. So for me, I've been in deep tech for God knows how long. Perx is the only non-deep tech company that I was involved in 7-8 years ago, and this is more or less a passion project of mine to work on something human behavior driven. And so now it started out as a marketing technology platform and onto a more deeper core technology of larger enterprises. So just give you an example of my journey. I'm a single or solo founder, which is a really, really challenging role to be in. If I had to do it again, I would definitely look for a co-founder. I don't like paying this much. So there is a journey to share with you on that. But being a solo founder, trying to build an enterprise software company, going global from day one was the most difficult challenge of my career. But that's just always my mindset anyways, go big or go home. But definitely Singapore did not have that in my, part of my journey. So it took us way longer. If we did this in San Francisco or out of San Francisco, the funding landscape would be different. The go-to-market would be very different. The willingness to pay is also different. So it took us 5 years longer than we should have gotten here. But now we're in over 16 markets, and we're serving the tier 1 banks, telcos, retail conglomerates, all sorts of CPG brands as well. So just want to give you a context that my heart is in deep tech, and we're actually moving more and more to Gen AI, and we just did a first webinar on introducing some of our Gen AI tools.
In terms of, I think a lot of people here can resonate with this, right? Like in some of our societies and cultures, there's a general expectation that women tend to be more gentle, compliant, softer in how we negotiate things. As a consequence, we tend to undervalue ourselves and basically overcompensate what we give. So having seen like the challenges you face, and you said, for example, as a single founder, essentially, like how do we challenge this status quo and negotiate more for ourselves?
That's a tough question. I've always been advocating, regardless of gender, based on merit, whatnot. I hate this whole gender thing. It's nature versus nurture. Nature actually has put us in this place. There will be always no equality until men starts to give birth. So this is, literally, we're just designed this way. And the roles that we play has to start from the fundamentals, and we're not here to talk about that. So for me, it's always about, have you struggled? Have you had pain and suffering? Like Jensen Wong has said to us, class of Stanford students, alumni, what's the key to success and resilience is only if you have pain and suffering and survive that and learn from pain and suffering will you know what resilience and success looks like. And so I have so much pain and suffering growing up, being a Chinese immigrant in the US. I got bullied so much in the States growing up in Florida. I fought for myself. I did a lot of that, trying to be one of them. And that kind of underdog mindset is how you overcome, become, and then rinse and repeat. And so the whole negotiating is no one's ever going to plop this opportunity. No one's going to bring you the opportunity. You have to seek for it. So women tend to be playing it safe most of the time, and they don't know how to ask for more. And it's like in sales, if you start the price down here and you ask for this much, they're going to negotiate down. Always ask higher to get to this point where you want to be. And so look at yourself as a really good quality person. You've done your best. You're kick-ass. You value yourself. You're worthy of this. And so when you negotiate, you constantly, having to sell yourself short or maybe just, tend to the status quo. I hate status quo and conformity. And that's why I'm in the startups. This is my 5th startup experience. I just love pain. I love leaning into risk. I know nothing more than pain and suffering and risks. And that's why, I'm unemployable. There's no way in hell any of the corporations will want a maverick in their organization. But that's the case. Negotiation is such a broad subject.
Two things on what you just said, right? Because I actually read the Peak article where you talked about how you were 8 years old in Florida and you got bullied at school, right? And surprisingly, at the same time, I have teenagers. And I was reading another article where they say that kids these days, they just don't know the value of hard work. They're woke, they're soft. Not the interns in my team, but other kids. And that 54% of Gen Z generally are not engaged at work. And I thought that's so interesting, right? Like when we think about it, like it's always like education, everything has come so far, but the strongest women I know are the ones that came before me, like my mom or my grandparents. So when the younger generation gets criticized for this, I always think, well, what hard truths, what advice do you give them? Because they're learning everything else. But where do they get the resilience from?
I guess bringing them back to the fundamentals. I think I can't teach parents how to parent, and it's not my job.
Even the younger people who come to work, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, so I think the younger generation, we talk a lot about the generation gap. They just need empowerment. So again, I'm practicing a lot of radical shifts in my company culture. I'm eliminating all one-on-one meetings. The reason why I'm doing such radical changes in leadership style is I'm here to empower and give you the freedom to create without boundaries. As long as you're creating within ethical guidelines and compliance, and our values. But we're hiring adults, right? The traditional way of leadership is parent-child. I'm going to tell you what to do, and you're going to do it. And that's an edict. Now, if I'm hiring smart people and adults, I want it to become bottoms up. If you want my time and one-on-one, you better come with an agenda. You better come with an objective. You're either wanting to solve a problem, to ideate and to create, or fast-track something, or you need guidance because you're stuck. But if you don't come to me with an agenda, no more one-on-one meetings. And so the one-on-one meetings is not, how's it going? We're running fast, and we're actually solving problems way faster. So and recently, I don't know if you guys, how many of you seen the Stripe interview with Jensen Huang? You saw that, right? He has 60 direct reports and does not have any one-on-ones. He only has group meetings. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my God, this is what we're exactly doing. We are practicing group meetings, and we'll give feedback publicly. If you can't handle that I'm actually telling you the idea is shit, then you're not who we're hiring for. Because there's no room, there is a way to give feedback and constructively, but we don't have time. Time is the startup's enemy. And with Jensen Huang, NVIDIA can only go so far. They can't hockey stick forever. And so this is why I think the leadership style has to change fundamentally.
I think that's really going to lean in well, giving an indication of how you think, because a lot of people may or may not know it, but the term turnaround girl is actually something that's been referenced on you, and I think you said it's your 5th startup, yeah. Right? Kuldeep and I talk to startups, I think, practically every day, and everyone's got a great idea, and everyone starts off with that wanting to be a unicorn or, going towards Series A funding. So what's the secret sauce? Like, what do you think? Because everyone's trying to do it, yeah, right? Yeah. So what do you think? It could be your tenacity, it could be luck, it could be a combination. What do you think it is that helped in terms of how you approach these startups and turn them around?
I use I'm trying to empower people. The culture has to inherently, I'm building a religion. If you believe into my faith and my religion, then we have a great, ethos to go by, and we can run equally faster, singing the same hymn. And so the whole point is, if everyone is trying to create their own little religions, that's politics. And so we actually practice so much more on radical candor, radical transparency. Everybody sees the P&L. Everyone knows what the budget is. And even if they share with each other their pay, I don't care. So we want to make sure that if you need the data, you have the data, and we're going to proactively give you as much data as you need, and so that we can make informed decisions. There is no politics or minimal politics in my organization because data is the single source of truth. If you have and you over and proactively communicate and you give so much data, nobody has room to gossip anymore and play politics. And we're here to create, innovate, and to disrupt. And the best way is to disrupt ourselves first. We're constantly trying to disrupt ourselves.
You know, when people take that advice on board, right? And I'm sure also like at Bank of Singapore, you come in, you start the year, you're like, it's going to be a great year. We're going to set out OKRs. We're going to achieve it. So many of us together as one. And with a startup, it's easier with a culture. But anytime you start work and then you get into it and then you're on month 1, day 2 or whatever, and that rut kicks in. People start getting tired. Now they're looking for the next holiday. And I find like the energy levels, you know, it goes through that. And I think as someone who's a leader, it's so interesting to see, like, do you consciously do this radical candor? Like, how do people apply it in their companies, this thing of keeping people engaged and motivated and not just getting into that rut?
So operational excellence is one of the biggest challenges. And I hired a amazing people and culture, you know, HR head, and I promoted her to my chief of staff. She measures every single BU for me. Are they performing? Are they, you know, achieving, overachieving? How do we recognize them? How do we promote them? Like, she is my single source of truth in terms of the metrics, and she keeps those metrics moving and milestones moving. And we have, you know, measurements. What you can't measure, you cannot improve. And so you can't fire without knowing. And so we document the hell out of everything. And we promote people to be transparent and so forth. And we publicly recognize people proactively, socially, publicly, whatever way we can to recognize. Because if you look at human behavior, it's so complex, but the single source of motivating people is they just need recognition, validation, and appreciation. And when we were growing up as kids, we constantly needed that to, you know, to appreciate our kids, reward our kids, tell them every single thing that they did was great or not great, whatever, but validating their every single move. But when we became adults, nobody did that for us. And we're starved for recognition in an organization, starved for recognition and appreciation. So where do we go seek it? Social media. You know, so that's a fundamental, you know, issue right now. It's like, if you cannot recognize each other and validate each other and cheer each other on, that means there's some fear and insecurity. And so we're practicing a lot of psychology internally, and we're doing a lot more of human behavior and self-awareness. If you don't love yourself, you're going to always blame others. And self-awareness is the key. If you know, I said, if you're pointing at this thing, have you actually looked at what you have done? If that person's not doing it, did you communicate it properly? Because you can't expect that person to understand. Did you validate that person understand? Did you understand this? Repeat it back to me. You know, communication is the biggest challenge in most organizations. We think we communicate well. Poor communication, lack of communication has been the downfall of most organizations. So how do you do that and do that effectively? And that's what we're trying to train everybody in our organization.
I think when it comes from the top down clarity that you've just shared, I totally get it. I wonder for yourself personally though, because obviously like you said, in the space that you've occupied in deep tech and onwards, it's quite a male dominated space, right? And for you, I think as you've gone up the ladder, you're meeting very senior men in different capacities, whether it's investment or the companies that you work with. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but guys, as they get more senior, their mindsets get really set. And it's a bit harder to argue with them. Not talking about my husband. But, you know, there's a confidence in thinking that develops as people get older, where you become wiser but more set in how you think. So in encountering and fighting those mindsets and decision making, how do you approach that? How do you deal with that how do you deal with conflict?
I love solving problems. And so conflict is one of them. It's about understanding versus listening to respond. And so a lot of times when I coach even C-suites and CEOs, they're mostly males, you know, at the top. And they're quite open, actually, but they just need somebody to challenge them. They are constantly hearing people telling them what they want to hear, but nobody's coming in, knocking on the door, telling them that their strategy is wrong. It's poor. They're setting the company and themselves up for failure, and this is why it's happening. And when they hear a completely contrarian view to what they're actually executing, they respect you, because no one has the guts to walk in and tell the CEO that this is wrong. How many of you actually have walked into the CEO's office and said, or your manager in C-suite, and said, I disagree with you, and I think there's a better way to do this, and here's how, right? And so, good for you. I love it. Yeah.
Maybe too many times.
Yeah. Love it, love it. So this is why I think in terms of leadership and dealing with all genders, it's not about, men or female or LGBTQ, whatever. It's really about how we actually approach the problems and how do we communicate it to them, because everyone wants a new piece of advice or insight that can help them achieve and grow. That's it. They just want a different view and different perspective. If you're coming in with a solution and a different perspective that helps them in their role, they will listen. And so I think the stubbornness is because they are so impatient. They are so tired of people preaching to them the same hymn. And they are tired of listening to it. And so then that's why they're stuck, and then it's really hard to train an old dog new tricks sometimes. I don't have patience for that.
I mean, okay, I did tease the guys on that one, but I have to be really honest that the best boss I've ever had is a guy. Worst boss I've ever had was a woman. And it's something that I've consciously tried to think about as we've all gotten more senior. Who's inspired you the most professionally?
My dad is a big driver in who I am today. Funny enough, he was always telling me when he raised 2 girls in the U.S., and he was like, don't ever let anyone see you vulnerable. That's how he raised us. So we're like, hard charging, hard as nails, tough as nails, steel, growing up. And then I go to San Francisco, it's like, kumbaya. Let's love each other. Tell me how you're feeling. I'm like, fuck feelings, like, I'm strong, what? Vulnerability? No, And so it took me years and decades to unlearn how to be vulnerable, because I was never taught to be vulnerable. And it was terrible to kind of come into a completely new world. The first time, every time we go back to San Francisco, every time, seriously, we sit down having drinks, every time exposes them, or everyone talks about what their therapist is talking about. This is how I'm improving myself. I just went to a psychedelics retreat, and I'm like, oh wow, this is so interesting. And so here,
in Singapore,
I actually been to, yeah, I love that. So it's really about how we view the world and unlearning. I'm obsessed with relearning at the moment, and I'm obsessed with learning. I was never like that. I have ADHD, so when I was a kid, I would get so bored. I master one thing and I move on to something, but I get so bored doing the same thing, and I get distracted easily. So yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy, trying to balance the two. But yeah, I love learning new things.
so and you've shown that, I think, over time. But how do you everyone's talking AI, right? Everyone's like, even every startup, I think, that comes to us just puts AI in their brand name just to sound like it's something forward thinking. How do you differentiate yourself in this space? What do you think are the trends that people should be looking at?
So I just recently wrote a piece on how do you differentiate in the world of commodities? How do you turn commodities into unicorns? And so AI is like water. It's already ubiquitous. It's like food, air, water. I'll give you an example. How many water brands are out there today? Evian, Aquafina, Define, like all sorts, right? Fuji. And so, but the water brands are constantly getting disrupted also, but not so recently. But we love buying expensive water. and then the way they brand it is safe, it's premium, it's from the Alps, and so I'm going to charge you so much more for this bottle of water. So now the narrative for every competing brand is it's safe, it tastes great, and it's premium, right? It's high quality. So then if the same narrative is going out, so it's about content strategy. So how do you fix the packaging of a product or the content strategy around the business model and the perceived value of the customers? So what this creator of this water brand in LA called Liquid Death, have you guys heard of that? Yeah. So Liquid Death is just repackaging water in a can. Just water in a can. So why was it so successful? They were able to raise $700 million last year, and in 4 years they became a unicorn. And their thing is about death to plastics. Obviously, there's a environmental slant to that, but the point is the contrarian thought, the irreverence part of it is let's disrespect the way that we used to and always have been comfortable doing the same thing and the status quo conformity, but let's sound different. Liquid Death doesn't sound like safe water, but it's from the Austrian Alps, right? And so how can you turn a can called Liquid Death into a high premium quality brand? And so now they're on the shelves, and the kids love Liquid Death because it makes them so cool. It's punk rock, heavy metal. And the moms are loving it because now their kids are finally drinking water. And so if you watch some of their videos, it's hilarious. So how you differentiate? The world needs authenticity, fun, and humor. We're missing that. We're missing authenticity because everyone wants to do what they think people want them to do. And so conformity does not sell. Status quo does not sell. Unconventional sells, right? Sounding the contrarian, being paradoxical sells. And so how you market your brand and creating that business model, innovative business modeling, and the perceived value you tested. And this is why, the AI, topic, if you're trying to create an AI startup now, AI is like water. What are you solving? How are you differentiating yourself? How, when OpenAI launched, GPT-4o, and I'll give you an example recently, 2 examples. The first one is the most recent. My VP of products, she was trying to teach her 8-year-old son how to, speak in French, which they don't speak French at all, and yet she used GPT-4o to create a tutoring workshop for her kid. And when she said, I have my 8-year-old son here, and he has an exam tomorrow, I need you to teach him on how to speak French. And so the AI started responding, and then gave it all sorts of answers and tried to ask a question. And she's like, whoa, he's just an 8-year-old. He's never spoken French before. Slow down. Tutor like an 8-year-old should be tutored. And so it started to get smarter just even within a few minutes. And by the time she was done with that tutoring session, she was also learning French, right? At that evening, this is only a few days ago, her whole family literally unsubscribed Duolingo. So canceled that whole membership. If you think about every tool that comes out with these guys, OpenAI, Llama, Mistral, all sorts, Claude, the minute they launch another major push, they're killing hundreds of startups. Hundreds. I'll give you another example. Have you guys heard of the Klarna example recently? Okay, Klarna is a buy now, pay later fintech company in Europe. And in February 27th, they came out with a press release. And that press release was telling you that they adopted AI in their organization. They implemented a bot. The bot was to serve all the first-level customer service support tickets in 38 languages. Okay, 38 languages. And that bot actually replaced 748 full-time agents. Not 5, not 10, 748 agents. And they actually turned a profitable corner and gave you some of the metrics around what they're saving and what they're actually, how they're making money from this one use case around support. And so Gen AI is here. If people are asking, are you using AI? If you're not, game over. I mean, we are all adopting AI regardless in our personal lives, in our businesses. But Gen AI is how, how you're packaging that, solving a moat. Are you still solving a moat? If these companies are turning on another feature, it's going to kill 100 more startups. Is that a moat for you? Are you delivering a feature? Are you building a feature? Are you building a complex problem that an AI can't fulfill? Now, at least.
In a few seconds, I'm going to open up the floor. Why I'm giving you a heads up is because, honestly, Anna is one of the most refreshingly open, honest, experienced people that I've had the opportunity to interview. So she doesn't say no to any question. So I'm going to do a few just casual questions while you're thinking. No more AI stuff, just some quick fire round questions with Anna. And then, invite you guys, if you have a question, ask it. If you want me to ask it, send it up. If you don't, I'll just keep talking. It's really boring for you. So take me up on this. While they're thinking, Anna, just quickly, what do you do to let your hair down?
I meditate. I block out my morning time. I work less now. I have less meetings, and I create more, and I feel more confident. I run a lot. I do a lot of hits. I hang out with my friends. I just love, and I'm obsessed with learning. I don't know why, but I'm just obsessed recently about learning new ways to hack life, to hack longevity, to hack growth, especially growth mindset. How can I learn more and learn faster? And there's so many things. So to let my hair, it's actually the antithesis of what you want to hear, but
It's
literally.
a lot more work than I thought.
I love.
It was like glass of wine.
I do have a lot of wine.
If you could invite one famous person for dinner, who would it be?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Probably Elon Musk or Jensen Huang. Those two, they're completely polar opposites of each other. I resonate a lot more with Jensen Huang because we're both Chinese immigrants and growing up in the States, and he's by far been way more successful. But the mentality is very, very similar and resonates with me. Elon Musk, he's just a crazy creative beast.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't agree with him. When his stock was going well, a lot of people loved him. Now it's like not performing so well. You love only the dollar signs. No, he's one of the most amazing minds of our I think of our kind, and it would be great to dig into his brain.
I think so. What do you want to be remembered for?
That I'm authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Also, you said just now that entrepreneurs, get bored very easily. So what's next? What's next for Anna?
So I'm working on this moonshot deal in San Francisco, and this is a deep tech business that's been in 12 years of research. And because the rise of LLM and also compute power, they were able to fast track their launch and bring that entire research into reality. That project in itself is just mind-blowing. The founders, the deep tech guys I'm working with, I even flew in to their office to look at, I'm seeing one of the research scientists show me the algorithm that they built it around. It's like beautiful mind kind of projects. And now it's coming to fruition. They've been practicing on over 400 million users. They already have a lot of data. They have 4,000 clicks per minute. So the solution is actually, what if you actually get real-time pricing and valuation of information? And misinformation is punished and penalized, but you can also see the value of what you're reading, what you're consuming. And also for content creators, if you're able to create and know the worth of your information, the value of information, and projecting and forecasting of your information, video, text, voice, images, it's really powerful. So it's creating a new asset class and a clearinghouse of information. So you have LLM, longevity, information economy, climate. We're solving information. So this one, they're pre-revenue and they're already valued at $500 million. So I'm working on this project with them, and hopefully, yeah, it's a pet project on the side.
When you guys read about this in the newspapers in a year's time, and be like, oh my God, that's what she was talking about. That's amazing. I mean, I know you're going to keep us posted. Okay, questions. Anyone have any questions from the floor?
Hi, Anna. Thank you for sharing. I'm Tiffany from Elephant. My question to you is, you refounded Perx in 2016 from like a B2C app to the platform now. So I suppose that was a very struggling time for you. How did you overcome the challenge so quickly? What's your mindset?
The challenge it was never quick. It's been an 8-year of pain. It was not 8 years of quick turnaround. No, I just had a vision because B2C, as you know, it's saturated, it's hard to scale. You're in a very fragmented ecosystem. You need hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to actually make money, and even Grab and Gojek today still aren't making money, right? You can see they're valued at less than what they have raised still. It's terrible. So I didn't really believe in the B2C game because I didn't come from that background either. And I'm not here to build nascent infrastructure technology. I'm here to build a deep moat to solve enterprise problems, like mission critical problems that really survives the business. And so when I looked at that, I said, loyalty app for consumers? Loyalty is dead, right? There's no loyalty. What we need is actually engagement and better engagement. Let me help solve some of the bigger enterprises' problems. And then engagement is not about sending an email, notifying you. Notification is a dead end. 80% of emails go into spam. Do you wake up running to your spam inbox every morning? We don't even look at our spam inbox, but yet brands invest 80% of budget every year on spam. And so this is where, mobile-first technology needs to change. And this is why I had a vision, and I believed in my vision. And now, 8 years later, we're still growing, and there's so much to be had. This market is just at the tipping of the iceberg at the moment.
Thank you.
You want to go first?
It's okay.
Hi. Hi, Fiza. Firstly, very refreshing session. I really enjoyed that. Now, I am a first-time founder based in India, and at the beginning of the conversation, you said that you had set up a lot of firms, and you spoke a lot about culture. As a first-time founder, and retrospecting on all the mistakes that you made, on all the good things that you did, how do you actually make a startup? How do you actually engrave that culture within your people? That they're with you, they're working with you. They pretend to be founders rather than actually employees. Because I feel like that's how any successful startup is made. When every single one of the people in the room are actually founders themselves, right? They might be on a paycheck, they're behaving like a founder. So how do you actually engrave that culture into your people for a first-time founder?
Yep. So going back to what religion do you want to create, right? That religion is your culture and your core values, but you have to measure the behavior of that core values. And so we went go big or go home, win at all costs type of, for the last few years before this whole tech winter hit. Now it's back to profitability game, and, it was tough. And I made so many mistakes, mostly hiring mistakes, people mistakes. I didn't know how to fire fast enough, which is one of the biggest issues. I actually I was attached to people too much, and at that time it was really difficult because now I'm learning how to actually, separate the personal and professional a lot more because you become friends. It's hard to fire, let's say, a co-founder or an executive that really is so nice, but this is not a charity, So we're not building a charity, so you have to fire faster. one of the things that I did to really come back to first principles, you're not going to raise any more money. If no VC's deploying, what do you have control over? The only thing you have control over is your own P&L, your own bottom line. So we had to cut. We had to cut enormously to get to profitability last year. And we did that. But it's hard to get people back to first principles. So, you're from India. I'm sure you know the term jugaad. To get people to go, jugaad it's really going back to growth hacking and figuring out with constraints, with very little budget, how do you jugaad your way to 10x? And that's where the fundamentals is not there when you're in a very entitled culture, an entitled privileged culture that you built. You have to reframe it over and over and over again in your town halls, in your group meetings, in your management meetings. Because why do people go to church on Sundays? You have to be reminded every single week. So you have to preach, and it has to come from top down. And that behavior needs to be measured. Yeah.
Your face looks so sad when she said that you have to fire someone, because I could see the name going through his mind. I could see it, like he knew who he's like, oh no, that's what I have to do. But that's what a lot of people say, like the team you start with is not the team you grow with. And, so...
That was very good advice that I needed. It's going to be a tough time going back to
I know, there's one friend who's not going to like Anna so much after this week. I took 3! Well, you really took the advice.
You're very right about the hiring part of it when you hire wrong. I think...
You can't afford to do that, that's the thing. Or you have to realize it quick enough. Would you like to?
Yeah. Hi, Anna. Hi. So I'd like to know, how do you define empowerment, especially women empowerment? And it's a fifth startup for you. So was there any moment when you felt, I'm not good enough or low on self-esteem? So how did you come back, and who mentored you? I mean, who was the first? We know that your dad has been a very strong influence, but apart from that, is there anyone from your professional background or your friend, someone who understood by you?
I do have George Flaherty, this old gentleman that I met when he was around 70 in San Francisco. He founded 60 businesses in his lifetime. He's such a Renaissance man. He's founded, music stores. He was a musician himself. He taught. He actually used to play with Frank Sinatra, that kind of, group and gang. He ran for mayor, and he became a mayor of Redding, which is east of San Francisco. He became the president of Democratic Party. He owned sports teams. He owned national parks. He did everything. I'm like, how do you do this? This is crazy. I want to learn from you. I met him because at one time I had a quarter-life crisis where my relationship was going south with my boyfriend at the time. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. And during the .com days, we were all so misguided, confused. Everything was shutting down. Everyone's getting laid off. And you're like, what am I going to do now? We're talking about when it rains, it pours. And my life was in the I didn't know what to do. I said, how? And then he literally said, Anna, and I met him at a dinner party. And then we started to have regular meetings. And I call him, you guys have read the book Tuesdays with Maury? Mm-hmm. He's my Saturdays and Sundays with George. And so we have our brunch together, and we would just talk about life lessons. And he's like, you know what? You need to stop focusing on yourself. Focus on something else. And so he introduced me to nonprofits, and then I went and joined after a few nonprofits that he introduced me to. He was also sitting on the board of 30 nonprofits. I'm like, who are you? And so I went and sat in one of them, and it just really spoke to me, which is a home for terminally ill kids that didn't have the funds to seek for help, and they were at the UCSF, right? It's called Family House. And today I think Mark Benioff and quite a number of renowned tech guys came in and built a children's hospital and donated. And back then there was no tech people in that in the board on the board. It was all white, Irish. There was no diversity. So when he brought me in, he's like, what? I think you can actually join and bring a perspective. So he brought me in, introduced me to the nonprofit, and I joined the board. And this is right before I moved here, actually. And I started focusing on something that was not myself. And it gave me so much more perspective. And now going back to empowerment, like he literally mentored me throughout. I even saw the day when he passed away. But empowerment is about creating a culture where you give the freedom to create for your team. And again, you hire adults, not kids. So this whole top-down about I'll tell you what to do and you're going to do it. Like order-taking culture doesn't work for me. I've never functioned well in an order-taking culture. And this is why I give an analogy, if in Asia, unfortunately, it's a very hierarchical culture, and we're constantly being told what to do, and we take it and we do it. Here's the 4 or 5 tasks to be done per day, do it, and then we go home. Now in the Gen AI, era, you now have to tell the human robot to prompt another robot. The critical thinking skills are lacking. And so I've been going on a roadshow testing my assumption, and lo and behold, it's true. If you're being told what to do every single day, and you're not thinking outside of the box, you're not interrogating, you're not challenging the status quo, now you're telling the human robots to be creative, so you're going to create, you're going to ask dumb questions, you're going to create dumb robots. And the responses are going to be mediocre or less, it's going to be terrible responses. So you're going to see a lot of the stumbling blocks, but empowerment is about how do you create an environment for freedom to create within certain boundaries, but to give it to them. I only want to see results. Who cares if you took 3 left turns to get there? I don't want you to take the straight line. I want you to jugaad your way to get there, right? And so going back to that is I want to see more creativity on solving problems.
Thanks for sharing your stories. I love the point on religion. We in our office say we are building a cult, so a little bit more rapid version of religion. And now, so after 18 years in a comfortable-ish corporate life, I also chose pain and suffering. As you say, in order to start up. One of the questions I wanted to ask is based on your interactions with a lot of startup founders. What is 1 or 2 things you think they waste their time on that actually is quite immaterial in a view? So, so I'd love to know because I want to know what I'm wasting my time on.
You can't do it yourself. You can never ask questions faster, build your community, join communities, join founders networks, because they're all feeling the same pain. They're all going through the same thing that you are, maybe in different flavors, but they can all tell you how to fire a co-founder, how to kick out an investor, how to, do all sorts of crazy complex stuff. And when you get together, it's like a therapy. You go into your, boardroom, outside of your boardroom to really be vulnerable and really share. And that's the single thing that is lacking because Asians are not used to sharing and be vulnerable. Again, going back to our upbringing. And so you can't do it alone. And also, try not to be too hands-on after a while because you need to reflect. Currently, we react more than reflect. And so in a very chaotic environment during your growth stage or finding product market fit, you're going to do a lot of things yourselves, but you have to learn how to actually block off your calendar and give time to yourself because if you're constantly firefighting and reacting, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And that's a fundamental, I would say, it happens over and over and over again. It comes with age. I'm turning 50 this year. And so I'm, I hate that age. I don't acknowledge that very, I'm in denial because I feel like I'm 25 or 30. But it's crazy how most of us just want control. Just let it go. Let it go. Let somebody else do it. Learn how to delegate smarter and to reflect more versus react.
Hi, Anna. Gitanjali here. Thanks for sharing your experiences and your journey. You talked about coming from a non
So what advice would you give to someone, women, people who are new in tech or considering a career change in terms of acquiring the skills, finding the right mentor, or just navigating the potential challenges?
So I think it's not necessarily tech background or not. It's fundamentally solving a problem that you're so inherently solving for yourself, right? And if you know that what that problem is and you're so passionate about it, go for it. You'll find a way to actually build the technology around it. If you're solving now an enterprise company's problem, that might be a little harder because now you're going to deeper infrastructure, deeper tech conversations, then you do need some kind of tech background. But then where do you start? If you have the vision of solving a major mission critical problem for these large organizations, then you have to go and work for one of those companies or maybe be amongst a group or learn the trade yourself. I actually had to learn how to program when I started, and I programmed for a few years before I left because I'm much more extroverted than introverted. I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here for 15 hours compiling and programming. I hate my life. One of my first jobs was going to Folsom, California, working for Intel, transforming their ERP system. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to die right now. I can't, I have no passion for that. And then it's like literally next to the Folsom prison, That was my life for 2 years, and I hated it. So then I left, and I went back into the front, or I went to the front line, because I much rather create, disrupt, market, sell. I'm a business model person. I'm a go-to-market person. I want to do more of that than to be behind the scenes to create. But it took a while for me to understand that technology.
Hi. First of all, thank you for a lovely
I
conversation.
think the mic is just the bottom.
Yeah, we figured that out.
Just hold it.
It is on, yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, thank you so much. Now, you're a solo founder. I'm curious to find out, was it by accident or deliberate? And second is that in the next few years, did you consider taking on somebody as a co-founder?
We're so late stage. I don't think you can call someone else now a co-founder unless we refound again and we pivot and refactor ourselves. It was not intentional that it became this way. I had to fire the 2 founders that I inherited the company. And the board was backing me. The board, they said, if you're not going to stay, I'm not going to reinvest back into these guys. I'm going to liquidate the business. But if you're passionate about this and you believe in this new proposal, this new business plan, we will fund this. And so they took me, because I actually said, I made a terrible career mistake coming to try to bail out this startup, which is not, it's not going to survive. It's not going to make it. So then it ended up, having very difficult conversations, because they also hired me in a crazy way where also the founders are like, okay, who the hell is she? Why is she coming in to take my company? And now you're the new CEO. Like how? So then I said, if you're going to disrespect me one more time, I can't coexist with you, and I'm out of here because I have better opportunities to go to. So it was very contentious in the beginning, but then, you know what? I think this is one of the best exits they've ever had, because I gave everyone the dignity, and then, I let them leave, and we pay them a large sum of money. That company was negative, and I still gave the investors their return money, and the ones who wanted to exit. And also the founders, we pay them a very healthy sum for burning the company to the ground. And so, yes, that's why you don't hear anything negative about me. There's only nice things, because when you're trying to turn around a company, you're either brutal, you have to be an asshole, or, you look at the entire picture. If you pick me, okay, I have another way to survive this company. And they ended up firing the 2 co-founders, and I was the sole woman standing, and I stayed, and 8 years later, we're still here. Yeah?
You've done 6 startups, and you were talking about how some someone like a mentor like George introduced you to opportunities. I've always felt that there is serendipity in opportunity. Just want to hear your point of view in your journey.
Serendipity? Like, how do I fall into these opportunities? It's crazy. It's just networking. I literally rated, I tell you, I was hungry. For the first 12 years of my career in San Francisco, I networked the hell out of San Francisco. I think still most of the folks that I know, the VCs, I know all of them. And that relationship has not gone away because, relationships and networks need to be tuned and refined, and you need to engage them to create that long-lasting relationship. So if I go back now, I still have so many of the friends who came from batches. They all founded their own unicorns, public companies, and so there's a unique network of ours that we failed, and we failed miserably. 3 startups failed miserably, terrible leadership, terrible strategy execution. But one of them actually, successfully exited enormously, and this is why I stayed with them a little longer and traveling around the world, and that's how I got here. But this whole thing about network, and create the relationships, and also surround yourself with the 5 people that you want to become. Right? That's plain and simple.
But that's the thing as well, right? How do you make your team hungry? How do you make the next generation hungry? How do you create that? It's something that's in you.
I give them opportunities. Like, the minute they come in, I'm like, you go speak at this event. You need to represent us. They're like, oh, you want me to speak at an event? Like, why don't you speak? I said, I don't need another speaking engagement. You go and speak, And so I want to challenge them and grow them and elevate them. We just had another marketer who joined us recently. The first week, she was like, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm drowning and stuff. But then now today, it's like Thursday. She started on a Monday. She's done so much. I said, how do you feel now? She's like, I've never learned so much in the first week of my life. Because, the first day, on Monday, we had a strategy meeting about completely pivoting on a different business model. And then I looked at her at the end of the table with the core team. I said, you're going to spearhead this project. She was what? Yeah, she just joined us. And so I nominate, because I like giving, if you're not challenged, you're going to be bored out of your mind. You're not going to respect your role. You're just doing the menial tasks. I don't want you to do only a few tasks. I want you to create. And so this whole thing about how do you keep them, stay motivated, it's about giving them a lot of challenging projects.
Okay, we've got time for one last question. I think the guy at the back had his hand up, Siddha.
I'm sure. Thanks for taking my question. Fisa, thanks for orchestrating a very nice fireside chat. It's probably one of the most casual ones I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna, for being open. I've actually probably tried Perx back in 2015 or so. But my question is, when you pivoted the business, and you talked about the differences between US and Singapore in the early part of your chat, did you not think about setting it up in the US? What were the thoughts around that, if at all? And 2 is, while you shared a lot of life hacks, what is the one life hack or productivity hack you would talk about? Thank you.
So why not San Francisco? Very good question. At that time, I've only been in Asia for a few, 2-3 years or so. And I want to make my mark to become an international executive. Nobody goes back. Most US executives come out here, deer in a headlight. They're running a global business. They have no idea. Singapore is not safe. Singapore is where? What? They don't even know the geography. So me coming in to show that I am a global executive, I need to play my part. A third of my life has been in the East Coast, West Coast, and then now, 12, 14 years in Asia. I lived a couple of years in Japan. This is the high growth economy. This is where the growth is going to become. So I can go back now to San Francisco and say, you know what? If you want to exit or pivot or execute in Asia, I have that knowledge and I have a Rolodex as well. So you don't build a Rolodex in 2 or 3 years. It takes a decade to build a sustainable Rolodex. Now I can actually pick up the phone and call any CEO I want, and they will actually make time for me. and that's because I put a lot of time and energy in curating and really building that relationship. And then this other question he mentioned, what was that?
He said life hack.
Oh, life hack on productivity. Don't have one-on-ones. Literally, a lot of it is about do less to control and do more to reflect.
I just got told in my ear that Bank of Singapore has the final question. It's going to be the best question ever. Got it? Okay, no pressure.
No, I don't think I have the last question. I'll definitely hand it off. It's been really inspiring. Thank you so much for coming to our premises. It's been wonderful, both of you. And I come from business and corporate strategy, and I work in a bank, right? I mean, this all sounds really dandy and great, but just imagining how I would actually bring what you say to our CEO is quite scary, right? So I guess the question is around, as a corporate strategist, and when I go to, the exco, to the board, how do I convince them that this is the best thing since cheese? And I can see that you have that quality about you, but a lot of it is also about marketing it and portraying it, but also having that depth around it, right? So how would you suggest or recommend to me, and then just be mindful of the context. Thank you so much.
I don't know if one advice or one hack would actually solve that, but I'll tell you a story of my own experience. I wanted to get promoted, or I was promised a promotion. I was the youngest female executive to run a global technology company's cloud computing business division. And I knew I worked my ass off. I made my time in Japan, coming back to Singapore. But the president of the organization resigned or got let go, and he was my sponsor. So he is this Western guy whom I actually worked my butt off to create that relationship and prove that I can, because he said, if you can prove to me that you can turn around the business in Japan, which I did, you'll come back and I'll promote you. In the 11th hour, he got let go when I came back. And so where's my promotion gonna go? A new president came in, and then he brought his entourage. I have no relationship or background with this guy. And so I walk in, and there was this role that is still sitting there. And I try to go in there and, fight for this role. And now I have to re-interview again to build that relationship. So I walk in, and I said, Lionel, I'm the best person for this job, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me like, no, I don't think so. And so he said, I can't give you that role. I said, how am I going to stay in this company and, work my butt off to invest another few more years? And then I was so defeated leaving out of that meeting. I said, but there was promise. I did everything that I needed to do to achieve this milestone. Then I went back again because I didn't take the no for an answer. And I literally went back and reflected, okay, I must have not done this properly. I said, you still haven't hired this person, and we need this person in this organization, and I'm still the best person for the role, right? And he still disagreed with me. And so he doesn't have a history with me, so he said, reject again. So I called my coach in the US, and I asked him, David, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing everything that you have advised in the past and this and that, and I don't know how to reframe this. I don't know how to actually get it across to him. So he taught me how to reframe something to get my promotion. And so he said, put it on paper and tell him your needs and his needs and your wants and his wants. And what value you're going to deliver to solve both, right? And so when I actually presented that, I said, the organization needs this, and I want this, And then so I presented to him how he should see me now, and how the value I'm bringing will actually, exponentially grow this organization. When I presented that, the pros and cons and needs and wants and the framework that David advised me to, the third time coming back, he promoted me. So if I took the first no or the second no and literally walked away defeated and didn't have the resilience to come back and say, you know what, fuck that, I deserve it, and I'm gonna get it until, and I went back and I said, I have to reflect. Look in the mirror, it's me. I did not present it properly to him. I needed to present in the way that he sees value, and so I did that, and I got the job the third time. So this is where, if you really believe in something, you don't take no for an answer. Because I asked over and over again before they fulfill the role, he gave it to me. But if I didn't, he would have hired somebody else. Plain and simple. Now, when my employees come and ask me for raises, for certain things, just for promotions, when they come and present it to me in the way that I see value and I can actually consume, because they're making a proposal to me. I'm going to present to you why I'm so valuable for them. They almost always get it. We don't reject people for the sake of just rejecting, because you're presenting in a different lens, in a different way to problem solve for the roles that we need to hire for. Why would I not promote that person or pay that person because she's going above and beyond? So for me, I much rather give the raise or promote someone, internally, because they want the job. They really are so hungry to solve that problem for me. Just for another $1,000 a month, why not? So that's how I see it, and I think that's most executives see it, to tell you the truth. Yeah. And your CEO is part of my YPO network.
So basically just tell Anna to tell him. Anna, you've been amazing. You've been transparent. Honestly, it's just been so amazing listening to you today, and I'm super excited to see what you're doing next and understanding it, because we had this conversation about deep tech, you and I. Thank you so much. Thanks. Guys, thank you, Bank of Singapore.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dad.